I am not ashamed that I was homeless, and I'm not ashamed of anything I've done. Everything I've done has made me who I am, and I like and love who I am. And the homeless didn't take that away from me. Childhood was wonderful. I was very, very blessed in that sense. We lived in Hobart, Indiana until I was 5, then we moved to California. My mom raised us. When my dad was gone, he'd be gone for 6 months out of the year. I have a brother, he's older. He's 5 years older than I. We were very close. But the 5 years difference in our age, it was, you're my little sister, go away. I was a tomboy. I wanted to play with the boys. Well, then when I got older and I had nice girlfriends, the story changed a little bit. He was more interested in being around me then. My mother and I were fabulous best friends, but I also knew when she was mom, she encouraged me to be independent, and that was not really an acceptable thing back then. My life was good then. I am really happy that I had the childhood. A lot of love, a lot of hugs, a lot of I love yous, be safe. They could trust me because I would tell them where I was going, who I was going to be with, and if I left that place, I had to let them know. So I was respectful of my parents, and I'm glad that they raised me the way they did. That was never anything I ever thought to ask her, why she felt it necessary to let me be independent. But if she hadn't, I wouldn't have been able to do what I've had to do in the last 40 years. I met a gentleman. We got married at 19. He was the love of my life. After we got married, it turned bad. He became abusive. We were sitting at the table getting ready to eat dinner, and the salt shaker wasn't sitting on the table. So I got up to get it. Well, when I handed it to him, he threw it across the kitchen. And I said, well, that's really strange. What was that all about? Well, it wasn't sitting on the table when I got home. I was like, okay, I went and got it and cleaned it up, and we did it. Well, it just started to progress. He started making comments, told me I was fat, told me I was ugly, told me that nobody else would want me. And the first time he beat me so bad. I was bruised from head to toe. I could barely walk. I had blood gushing from me. Well, I went to my mom's to recover. So unfortunately, I had to drag my family in on that too. They had to see that. It just progressively got worse and worse, and as it got worse, my self-esteem went down the toilet. The bruises go away, but the mental didn't. The last year we were together, we decided to move to Florida. I got a job, he got a job. I got real sick with a kidney infection, way bad. I mean, I almost died from it. It was really bad. I went to the doctors, got situated up, and as I'm coming into the carport, he comes up to me, grabs my purse out of my hand and throws it into this little creek that was running by my uncle's house. And I said, why did you do that? I said, my medicine's in there. I just came back from the doctors. And this little voice in my head goes, if you don't do something about this now, he's going to kill you. And I picked up one of those old-fashioned reel-type lawnmowers, and I threw that at him. And I said, you will never touch me again. Well, that was the end of him. In this country, no one should be hungry. No one shouldn't have a roof over their head. No one shouldn't be recognized as a human being. And that upsets me greatly. It started getting good again. Then I met my second husband. And he had asked me if I wanted to go to a concert with him. So I said, sure, why not? And after that, we were never apart. But I told him, I said, I'm going through something really bad right now, so you're going to have to be really patient with me. And I explained to him a little bit about what I was going through. He was very gentle. He was very kind. He didn't push himself on me. We got married. We were doing well, had Robin, our daughter, and we were building a garage, having the child, and running our own business, and remodeling our home. I think it just got to be too much for him, and he cheated on me and he left. He took everything. My daughter received a trust fund from my grandfather. That was for her education or whatever she wanted, and she could have part of it at 18 and the rest at 21. But in the meantime, until she was 18, he was borrowing money off of it and putting little bits back here and there. He was $40,000 in debt when he left us. I'm like, oh no, I'm gonna prove you wrong. So I went and got a job, and I had to get 3 jobs, and I was working, and she's 10 years old. Managed to keep the house afloat because he was good about paying his child support. So I was able to eliminate 2 of the jobs, keep the one job. I managed at a Dairy Queen in Chesterton for 11 years. New owners took over the Dairy Queen. I was making over $11 an hour, so that was too much money coming out of their business at that time. They made my life miserable. I did nothing right. So I quit and got a job that paid me $6.75 up to the $7.50 when the new law came out for minimum wage, yes. Well, in the meantime, they doubled our property taxes. I couldn't do it. So I was defaulted on some of my bills. I sent what I could, but you just never catch up. And then my appendix ruptured, and I was in the hospital for 7 days. So that put me behind because now I have no income coming in, and I can't work for a month. So I didn't know what else to do. The banks are threatening me with this. Can't you just borrow the money? No, I can't just borrow the money. People don't have money. Nowadays, it's not that easy. People don't have money to help other people. That's when things started getting bad. And in 2008, I was diagnosed with lung cancer. Had to have the middle lobe of my right lung removed. I'm cancer-free, happy to say. It has changed my life. I'm limited on what I can do work-wise, so I went the disability route. And up until then, I had no income whatsoever. My daughter took over my hours. I worked a little part-time. That's all I could do. That's all my doctor would allow. And then she just up and left me. She went to Iowa. She couldn't handle it anymore. Too much responsibility. When she left me, she was 23. I cried for days because she couldn't find a job for years. And I just thought, wow, I took care of you all those years, even as a teenager. And I never once complained, or if you needed something or wanted to go somewhere, I worked extra so you could go do that. So I was heartbroken and devastated. I don't look any further than today. I try not to worry about the past. We learn from our past. This has already happened. I can't change it. Let's move forward and see what we can do to fix it. I got the news then that the apartment complex I lived in was going into foreclosure. I had no choice. I had to move. I didn't have the money for it. I couldn't work. Got a hold of some friends, stayed with them. She's a drug addict, and I didn't know it. She'd had rotator cuff surgery, and they put her on fentanyl suckers. 2 years after, she was still getting the suckers. It was as if I was the bane of her existence, just being around her. She would look at me with just foulness, and I could never get her to answer any reason why she was acting that way around me, so I kind of stayed away from her as much as I could. And the stress was getting terrible about that. So I even went and actually what little bit of money I would get, I went and bought samples of shampoo and stuff because I didn't know if I'd be washing up in a bathroom somewhere. So I had planned for being actually homeless with no place to go. And not saying that my friends were being cruel, but it was hard for them to see me go through this. So I lost contact with a lot of my friends, and that hurt me. But they couldn't, that's not Peggy, she's not homeless. So if we don't think about it, then it's okay. I'd been scared from the day that I had to move, just scared. Always that over your head that they could kick me out right now. Where would I go? I have all my stuff here. What would I do? I know it's just stuff, but they don't want my stuff here, you know? So it was a constant fear. I was under so much stress. I dropped down to 85 pounds. I was just a shell of a person. My spirit was just shot because I'm 60 years old now, you know? And at that age, even when, you know, I was in my middle 50s, that's not where I planned to be in my life. I was planning to be all grown up with my husband and my daughter and everybody's happy. I got a grandbaby, and that was my plan. But it got changed. Well, we are human. Money doesn't make you a person. It just helps you, get you through. We don't need all of this stuff. We don't need 4 phones, and we don't need the internet, and that doesn't make us survive. It was scary because a lot of the home situations were temporary. Did a lot of packing and unpacking. There's a number, a 211 number, it's a helpline, and that's how I found out about housing opportunity. They told me come in, fill out an application. They were full at that time. My brother had a trailer down on the lake, and I went and stayed there for a month. Oh, that was amazing. That was the best thing, because I was free to myself. I didn't have to tippy-toe around because I was in somebody's house. I'd go down in the morning and sit at the lake and drink my coffee and watch the sun come up and the swans and the ducks. So that put me in a good frame. It was a lot less stress. And in a month to the day, housing called me and said they had an opening. When I first moved in there, I'm not really familiar with Portage. That was a little scary. So for the first 2 weeks, I just kind of sat and cried. Yeah, I was thankful to have this home, but I had nothing. It didn't feel like home. And I kept waiting for the ball to drop again. Yep, sorry, the grant, we can't do this. You're going to have to move out again. So I was seeing a therapist, and I said, what about a therapy pet? And she said, oh yeah. She said, don't worry about it. I'll write you up a paper. You get your doctor's approval on it. Then we'll present it to Housing Opportunity, and we'll see what we can do. So I got my therapy pet, and she helped immensely. She's a pug. She weighs like 30 pounds now. She was big when I got her too, so that's not all my fault. And then the girl upstairs kind of looked towards me as a mother because she's a young mother herself and was abused. So we kind of shared that in common, so we would talk. And then my best friend, Kat, moved in, and we both lean on each other. And Jessie, her daughter's 13, loves me just as much as I love her. And it's home now. I devote all of this to my mother for doing what she did for me. She did a good job. And I miss her. I miss her a lot. And times like this, you still need your mom. But I know she's watching over me.